in a corporate setting, we're already having to prove ourselves. We're already having to strap on this armor to protect ourselves, but also show that why we are the ones for the team, why we're the ones going to close this deal and take the sales to the next level in this company and grow your team exponentially over this many years. And we're already programmed that we've got to go in there and prove ourselves. But how many times do we go into a room and we make people laugh? How many times do we go into a room and we really show empathy to that CEO because he did have a deal that he did not get and it crushed him so, and nobody asked him how he was feeling?
Yeah.
Those kind of things, ladies, get men's attention.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 Strength and Health Authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode.
Hi, and welcome back to the Strong by Design podcast show. I'm your host today, Coach Tonya, and with me, a very special guest and a very dear friend, Miss Natalie Freeman. Welcome, Natalie.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Hey, Tonya. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really, really excited to have you on the show because today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about some business stuff. I mean, you're a very strong, accomplished woman in business, but we're going to be talking about being successful and single. So this is going to be really fun. This is girlfriend talk here. So I'm excited for our female listeners to hear this, but I'm also excited for our male listeners to hear this because I'm sort of wondering what their feedback is going to be because we're like all cards on the table today. Cards on the table, right? So,
and I need responses from the men, Tanya. So make sure you forward those to me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But before we jump in, I just want to tell our listening audience a little about you. Now, Natalie she's quite a rock star. She is a financial advisor, with Edward Jones, and she's been recognized for her accomplishments in entrepreneurship and leadership. She is a single mom to 1 son and 1 blue pit bull. She's also the host of her own podcast show, Successful But Single, Doing Our Thing Without a Ring, which I love. I think that is so catchy and so cool. I've listened to a couple episodes. They're really, really good. So at the end of the show, we're going to tell everybody where they can find all your stuff so they can listen themselves and also find you if they're in need of some really great financial advice. So we're going to let people know where to find you. But right now, we want to jump into successful and single. So what prompted you to start that podcast?
Well, Singlehood, y'all, is a whole podcast. It's a whole book,
isn't it?
It's a whole library of things to discuss, right? So let's just start there. Right. But back in 2020, our life shifted.
Yeah.
We all had to involuntarily pivot. So we were all at home. And for many of us, it was a time of introspection. You were like, what am I doing? Am I in the right position? Am I living in the right side of town, the world? Do I have a man? Don't I have a man? Why not? Mm-hmm. And so, like everybody else, if you didn't have a COVID boo, I say, somebody you were kind of attached to during that time and had the privilege to stay at home with, I started thinking, like, why am I single? Like, I'm cute. I feel like I'm successful. Why am I single? And then I went, no, really? Why am I single? Yeah. And so I just started popping in DMs because I figured if I was wondering these kind of things, maybe other people were. So I popped into DMs, y'all. And usually, on your social media platform, you start messaging people. That's what I mean. You start messaging people and I asked them, why do you think you're single? Like, no, really. What do you think is prohibiting you from going forward in a relationship? Do you love being single? If so, why? And I was very surprised at the feedback. People were like, you're asking some pretty provocative questions. Are people really answering candidly? And I was like, absolutely they were. Because I guess we were home and maybe they were thinking, or maybe they were just lonely, maybe like I was and just needed somebody to talk to. Either way, I had enough material. I said, you know what? I'm going to start a show. People need to know that there are still amazing people who are unmarried, who are doing some great things during this time. They're using this time for productivity and to be successful. And I wanted to showcase those stories and maybe, make some connections along the way. or maybe just have some entertainment for us to listen to while we were all home stuck in the house. And that's y'all how successful but single was birthed.
Wow. Well, there's so much in that answer that I want to touch on. So first of all, I love how you said that, during COVID, we all had to involuntarily pivot. There was no choice. So if you were someone who was single at the time, well, you were definitely not just only single during COVID, but alone. And so because you can be single, but when you're out working, whether it's you leave the house for work, or like you and I, we work for ourselves, but we're out and we're doing a lot of networking. So we get a lot of social connection during the week. Like sometimes a lot, So you can be single, but never really notice or feel so much like you're alone. But during COVID, that all changed. So the aloneness of it would have become very apparent and like right in your face,
Absolutely. Very apparent.
So when you were like reaching out, sliding into the DMs and asking people like, why do you think you're silly? What do you think? Why are you single? What was sort of some of the common responses that you were getting?
Well, you've heard them, because I choose to be, nobody can meet my standards. I don't know while I'm single, I've been going out on dates and it seemed like an oil change every 3 months or we're changing over, Some of the funny analogies I did get during that time as well. That was a good one that stuck in my head. So those are the most common ones. But then I got some really great answers like, I'm single by choice. This is a great time for me to reach my goals, write that book, travel around the world, see what else is there to offer, in life. I'm going to work on that. I heard I'm healing. I was in a bad relationship. I was going to try to give it my all. It just didn't work. It made me realize a lot of things about myself. I'd like to work on those things, and even the guys too. Even males were very candid, which most people were surprised about. And I said, y'all, this stuff is show worthy. People need to hear about this. A lot of them said that women don't listen.
Okay.
That's why I'm single. I ended up doing an all male show, all males, what men are saying that women aren't hearing.
Really?
And I dedicated that time to hearing from males about that because I got that feedback too while I was asking questions. They were very candid.
Really? Okay. So we don't want to give all of it away because I want people to go to your podcast and I want them to listen to it. But can you give us like a couple things? Like what is it that we're not hearing? Like what is it that men are saying we're not hearing? Like some of the common ones that I want us to hear.
Yeah. And y'all go look for it. It's called All Male Review. Clothes on, filters off.
Okay.
What men are saying that women aren't hearing. And what they were largely saying is they have feelings too. They want to come home every day and say, how was your day, honey? How are you doing? Did you get that deal? Did you close it? If not, how did it make you feel? They wanted women to know that, yes, they have gone through some hurtful situations like they have as well, but they process different. They get over it different. They just really wanted us to know that, it's not really all about looks and boobs and hips, like we always think it is, even though that's very important to them. Don't get me wrong. Very important. But they do have another side that they wish people would ask. I got out of that all male review to start asking men as I'm dating, what makes you feel important and loved? Because they said that was a question that women rarely ask them. So much so that now that I start asking men this question, they don't know how to respond. It catches them off guard that somebody's really asking them, and now they need time to think about it.
That's really interesting because I'm listening to that and I'm thinking, wow, that's like really refreshing because I know as women, and I'm painting with a broad brush here, but as women, we, as girls, we'll get together and we'll talk about how we're feeling about things. And we talk from like even us that are like go-getters in business, when we kind of get together for our girl time, we tend to talk about a lot of that with our girlfriends on that emotional level. Like, this was really hurtful. This was really upsetting. I felt belittled or I felt celebrated. We talk from an emotional point. And I'm just wondering, as I'm listening to you, I wonder if sometimes as women, we think, or we somehow have convinced ourselves that we can't have those conversations, or we don't ask men that because they don't want to have the feelings conversations, because men don't like that. Because sometimes as a woman, I'm saying sometimes as a woman, that's the kind of, whether it's the body language, not necessarily the words directly. I sometimes get the feeling like men don't.
Yeah, I think we make that assumption, right? I mean, be honest, Tonya. Have you ever asked the guys that you're dating, what do you really feel? What really makes you feel loved? Have you ever asked the guy that question?
You know what? Men that are like really good friends that I've known for a long time, yes, like friends, because they're like an extension of my girlfriends. So
exactly,
right, and a lot of times, because when it's a friend, like when you're in the friend zone, your conversations are different, because you're not shopping, you're not trying to sort of suss this person out. Like, are we compatible? Is this somebody, if another lockdown hit, could I actually spend 24/7 in the same building with this person? So I think, I wonder sometimes because I don't know, I think as women in business, I wonder sometimes we get our walls up, because we do want to protect ourselves, because a lot of us have come, like, we're fighting and struggling really hard to be seen as equals, or not as, I don't like the word equals, but being seen for our value in terms of our intelligence, intelligence and our contribution to the business world and the businesses that we work in. So we're really fighting for that. And then I think even sometimes for us just to step back and become that soft, vulnerable, when we switch into like, well, now I'm going on a date this evening, it's
sometimes hard. It's very
hard. We still walk out with that armor on.
Yes. I mean, and a lot of times too, men want us to ask them how they feel. Now, we may need to package it differently than we would ask a girlfriend.
Right.
But I think we make that assumption that they don't want to talk about their feelings, but I think it's the way we ask them questions. But also too, like you said, trying to take off that armor, take off that protection in the workplace, and, become that more sexy or sultry or even passionate person when you're on a date. Sometimes it is hard to switch.
Right.
And there's an assumption that as we're switching, they're going to want some of those things. They're not going to want the ishy-gushy, tell me how you feel. And they're saying that that's just not true.
Wow.
According to the men on that panel, right? They weren't speaking for all the men in the universe, but...
No, but I think it makes a good point. I think, like our age bracket, where we grew up and raised in sort of a more like maybe a traditional family where there was like the roles, the female roles, the male roles, and men they're strong. They can carry it all. They can shoulder it all, but they're still human beings with feelings. And again, like they definitely express it differently, but they get upset, they get pissed off, so that actually makes perfect sense that they would want to be asked, because if you're the mother of boys, as a mother, how often do you ever ask your young boys or your teenage boys or your adult boys that are dating, how did that, oh, you didn't get that job, how are you feeling? So we'll do it with our family, our male family members. So it kind of makes sense. Why wouldn't we ask? And I think I sometimes think there's that block with women. Like, it's just, well, I'm going to protect myself because I don't want to get, Yeah,
I think a lot of times we're busy protecting ourselves while we're going through that assessment and that dating phase. We're busy trying to protect ourselves as well. And sometimes though, we miss opportunities for intimacy.
Yeah.
Because we're busy protecting ourselves and then also making assumptions that they may not want to discuss certain things.
Wow. Well, that is really interesting. So I have a question.
Absolutely.
Are men, like, I think a lot of women, we think like, it's about the look. And I mean, visually, it's very easy to have like humans are largely visual people. And I've said it before, like if a very good looking man walks by, yes, I'm going to notice it. But I could sit down with that same man and within 3 minutes be like, oh my gosh, like complete, like, you know what I mean? Like looks are kind of like an initial attraction, but they're not something that really make you want to connect with somebody. But are men intimidated by successful women? And are they intimidated by a woman who is like attractive, can hold a conversation, is successful in what she does, has opinions. I mean, are they intimidated? And I don't know if intimidated is the right word. Are they intimidated or are they just like too much? Just too much. I just want that woman that when I come home, asks me how I'm doing, and we just sort of watch Netflix and chill.
That's all right. And you said it perfectly, though. It really depends. A lot of times, in social media, we say, oh my gosh, they're so intimidated by my success. But what I'm finding out is not really. Not really. People love to know that I have a podcast, and they love to know that I do motivational speaking, and I'm out there doing 31-day challenges, trying to get my 3 miles a day in and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're a rock star with that. Woo.
Thank you, girl. But people who are really attracted to me, they brag like, look at my friend. She's doing this and she's got this going on. And then they're intrigued about it. And they want to know who I've come across, during my daily meetings and my networking. And so I'm finding that truly men that, I may be compatible with find it intriguing. Now, as anyone else, if people feel like they have not achieved their level of success, or they were held back for some kind of thing, there may be intimidation there, but that can be on both sides of the table with a man or a woman. So yes, sometimes I do experience that, but I'm finding that it's not the majority. Okay. Then, of course, there are men who are just, I want you around. We don't necessarily need to talk about it a lot, right? Especially during football season. I want to come home. I want to eat. Yeah. And then we can just sit there. And as long as you're here, right. That's good. But the thing about it is the fun thing, and we should make it fun instead of stressful now, right? When you're in that assessment or discovery period of dating, you should realize you don't know which of those men you're going to get, just like they don't know what I'm about until we take the time to find out. Well, yes, there's some level of intimidation at times, but as far as the dating scene, people love to know that you're doing something and you're going somewhere. They really find that fascinating, and they will support you in that.
Okay. No, I like that. And I hear what you're saying. And when you talk about, like when you're in the initial dating part, again, I think it just comes down to what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking, which is making me go, oh, okay, that's kind of like, that's sort of very calm to know that it's about compatibility. So it might not be. So what I'm going to say to the women is it might not be necessarily that they are intimidated by you. It just might be that it's just not, you're not compatible. So that guy that you started dating, that's all of a sudden maybe isn't showing the same kind of interest, or you just, how we sort of feel like, I just feel like a breakup's, I just feel like this isn't going to go anywhere.
Like it's coming.
Yeah, we know it's coming. We know, we're just like, yeah, okay, we know. It's maybe not as much about your success or accomplishments as it's just not, you're just not the right one.
We sometimes label it as that because that's what, social media says, or that's kind of the perception. If you're in corporate America and you're strong and powerful and you're single, you're like, oh yeah, most men are intimidated. But I'm finding out that a strong man or a capable, connected, compatible man, they find it intriguing. And so I'm learning to be a little more perceptive about really what's going on to see maybe if that wasn't the case. But again, like I said, there are people who are unhealed or, just kind of whatever, maybe narcissists even, that are going to say, you're that successful or whatever they're going to say, right? So, but I'm learning. The more I'm out here, the more I'm learning and the more I'm really trying to listen to men.
No, that's a good thing. So I think, ladies, we got to listen and understand that. But it's like, don't you find like it's very interesting and different the age that where we're at. Like we're both in business. We're not in our 20s. I feel like I'm like where I am now, considering when I look back at everything that got me here, I mean, my life is so good. I am so blessed. I am so happy. Never in my life have I more secure in who I am and very unapologetic for it. I think sometimes maybe sometimes I need to soften a little because it maybe comes off a little strong. Like she doesn't need anybody. Well, and for years, I kind of learned that I had to rely on myself. So there's tempering that, but dating or even meeting people, it's very very different. And what would be your advice or tips or suggestions for like men and women, like, you know, in the genre that we are, for because we like I don't know, successful is not the right word, but just navigating it and sort of enjoying the process of it. Because again, and I think if you come home after a hard week and you go out Friday with your girlfriend, you're like, okay, I'm finding a husband tonight.
Right.
Well, that's going to go. I really don't, because I think you're just putting out a vibe that's like, whoa, you know, everything back up. But just sort of enjoying the process of meeting other people, other like-minded professionals, or people that enjoy, like maybe somebody is not in business for themselves, but they're happy in their job. They love to play golf. They enjoy whatever. And just what would be your suggestions, and just relax and enjoy it, because it can be a really fun time. And at the end of the day, I think at the age we're at, it's not like high school. If it didn't work out, then you were mortal enemies until like you met it again at the 10-year reunion, right? But now it's kind of like you can meet somebody and be like, you know, you're really great. This is great. I don't feel that kind of connection, but like, let's go watch football next week. You can maintain, you just meet and generate friendships.
Exactly. You know, and it's so true, Tonya. I'm glad you say it that way, because we go through an evolution, and sometimes we go through different phases in this journey, because sometimes we get anxious, right? And that kind of protrudes a certain energy while you're out there like, oh gosh, you know, it's leading nowhere again. And then you get distracted and discouraged. But like you said, we are truly blessed. We are doing amazing things. We're coming upon amazing opportunities. And I think dating should be a part of that. I actually am to the point now where I am enjoying my dating season, because I've taken the pressure off. I'm not lowering my standards or setting different expectations other than to enjoy the journey. I'm really trying to enjoy the journey most. And y'all put the disclaimer. I hope that producers are going to roll the disclaimer around. I'm still single, y'all, so this is not, I don't know if this is great advice or not, but for me,
yeah,
I am just learning to
relax into it.
Relax into it. And like you said, we should be at a place where we could, like you said, we were not compatible for a romantic long-term relationship, but you know what? We both go to the lightning game and we're screaming just as loud. So this may definitely be my lightning buddy. This may be my going to the game buddy. Yeah. This could be my going boating buddy. You know, this can be my just sitting, you know, at a bar, listening to some music, and just having a great time buddy. This could be my car, you know, going to jump car shows or gun shows or all the bridal shows, even whatever, you know, and walking around. We really can have different male friends, y'all. Just like we have different female friends. We all have that, or our cocktail hour girlfriends. We have that Netflix to put on our pajama girlfriends. We have to the game girlfriends. Y'all, we really can have guy friends like that, you know?
Yeah. And that's nice.
And
that's such a great thing, because again, like you don't know, like your boating buddy might have a cute friend, you know, you never know. Right. And it's just, you know, relationships and friendships, if you remain open, or you always open you to other ones now. And it's not, I don't think, I mean, like definitely the goal is not, I don't know that a lot of women, I mean, I'm sure like the idea of marriage and settling down is great, but if you've been there, done that, you might not really be in the market for that, but it's nice to get dressed up and put on some lip gloss and have a nice dinner. And if there's a romantic connection, that's fantastic. But if not, if you had a great evening, you had a great evening.
Exactly. And that's what I'm realizing too. Everything doesn't have to lead down the aisle. You know what I mean? Establish a friendship first. Establish those people you can laugh with and enjoy yourself. There may be a guy just like you who really wants to get dressed up and go somewhere nice, to have a nice evening out. You'll find those people too. And if we're not shoving marriage or whatever, because a lot of women, like you said, a lot of us have been married before. That may not be their end game anymore. So I think a part of that compatibility and connectivity is just figuring out kind of who's in what space, you know, and just kind of releasing people to be okay in that space. If you never want to get married again, that's great. Don't lie about it. Just let me know so I'll know that this is a space you're in. I have guy friends who don't want to get married. I have guy friends who want to get married. Again, just like I have girlfriends, right? And so I hope that those people are going to find each other. But at the same time, we can create an amazing community to chat with, to throw things around and like, what do you think about this? And that's what I love about the Successful but Single podcast community, even because even if we're not each other's person, we've still developed a community that we could talk, go out, and even listen to the podcast together, right? So it's just pretty cool. So again, just discovery and just relaxing your expectations without bending your standards.
Right. And then, and I want to clarify, I think when we say like low, like, bending our standards, it's not that we feel anyone is below us, but I think sometimes men and women, you can fall if you're kind of too like desperate, you're like, you haven't had a date in months and you really want one, that you'll just say yes to someone that is like, this is probably not going to go well, but I'd rather do that than be at home alone another weekend. And I don't know if that's the right thing. That then fulfills that question mark in the head, like, this just dating sucks, there's nobody out there, yada yada, because it's easy to fall into that if you've either been married and divorced and it's amicable, or you've been through a terrible relationship and got out of it. It's easy to fall into well, I'm too old, there's not, well, here's the news flash. There's a lot more people in the 40 plus age bracket that are single, that have either been divorced or been in long-term relationships and are single and just looking for connection. And connection doesn't necessarily mean leading to sex or leading to marriage or leading to something permanent,
which is another reason.
Fun.
Exactly. Which is another reason I was really desiring to create a community. Hey, if you connected, romantic, marriage, whatever, happens, great. I always ask people to give me credit on the podcast so I can come back and say I did it. But I wanted to create a community. I wanted to create a community so it's okay to be single right now. It is not looked upon. You don't have a scarlet letter on your back because you're divorced. No, we all are here. I'm like you, you're like me. Let's learn from each other. Let's grow with each other. Let's laugh. Let's go out. Let's heal together. I've been even asking subject matter experts to come on the show now. Like, let's talk about how to confront. Let's talk about how to deal with your past without putting everybody else that are coming next in a box to saying, oh, they're going to hurt me. Like, let's talk about how we should on ourselves when, he's like, I should have done this in that marriage. And, oh, I'm never going to get a man anymore. And I should have lost weight and all these kind of things. No, I want us to be able to retell our stories, rewrite our narrative, and come out knowing that we are amazing. Man or woman, whether you want to be married or not, again, we are amazing as we are, and learning to change that story in our heads and in our hearts.
Yes, changing the story, because man, aren't we attached or addicted to our stories sometimes? My goodness, I hang on to these wounds and badges like it's really, it's not going to fulfill anything going forward. I mean, it's wisdom, lessons learned.
Yes.
Going forward, and again, like a lot of times, depending, like if you're kind of one of those people that's like sort of at least dating within your age range ish,
ish,
you're gonna find
that's another podcast.
Yeah, ish, but that the chances that you're going to meet people not with the exact same, but in a very similar, we're kind of in a similar pool. Some of them have been married, some of us have, a lot of us have children, grown children. And I've met men that have, because in their past relationships, they kind of started later because they put success first. And some of them have younger, like, 12 and 13-year-olds, and they're like in a whole different phase. And you might be someone that's like, I really like you, but right now, like, your family's definitely a priority. So this might just be, we might be football buds or something like you.
Exactly.
So I love that you've got this podcast, and I love that you're bringing these people together. And I love that we're talking about it, because I think one of the worst things we can do is only discuss it when we're only sitting with our girlfriends, or when we're only sitting when the guys are getting together and they're having guy night. I don't know that those are the most productive arenas. I think they're great for like sometimes that transparency and being like, I went on this date and this is what happened in our have y'all had that experience? Like, I think it's great if you're creating a community where men and women can come together and go, I never knew that. Like, oh my gosh, that is such great information to have.
We were made for community, if you think about it. Nobody was really made to live alone. Men were made for women. Women were made for men, vice versa. Women were made for women. We are made for each other. And how much more can you grow, learn if you had that different perspective to bounce it off of? There was one guy, and he's so funny because he came into my DM one day and he was like, that guy likes you. I'm like, nah, not him. He's like, yes, and he was giving me all the hints and the signs. Totally missed it. But had not my friend come along, and kind of pointed some things out to me, I was like, well, man, maybe some other people have been interested. And I'm totally missing the sign. In my mind, that wasn't a sign. That was somebody being kind. You know what I mean? So it's so funny to have guys like, no, if we're doing this, we definitely like it. You know what I mean? And so it's cute that we have those brothers or friends or football buddies, to be able to connect with. And sometimes it grows from there. Like, oh my gosh, like you're a football buddy, but the more we talk, interceptions.
Okay, no, that's right. And I love that. I have a lot of male friends, and I love that. They'll be like, Tonya, like, hey, pay attention. Like, he said that. I'm like, yeah, he's being polite. No, that's not polite. I'm like, really? You all speak such a different language. Because we're expecting, I've heard this before. Like, it's almost like we expect men to speak womanese and men expect us to speak manese. And we
absolutely,
we're not very good at speaking each other's languages, but
absolutely,
we can become better at understanding, right? Like, because we need our language to convey that feminine side of us, and men need manese to convey that male energy. And I don't know, we need to become completely bilingual in each other's language, but we need to understand it to be able to communicate better.
Exactly. I agree. And having a good interpreter helps.
Having a good interpreter. So those guy friends for the women and those women friends for men are really important, because I've done that too with male acquaintances. Been like, you are going to call her, right? Like in a day or so. It's like, well, should I? I'm like, duh.
You think this is second nature? It's not. I'm like,
and then we get upset. Then we're like, he didn't call, he didn't do this, and we're like, what a jerk. And it's like, well, no, he just doesn't have the language manual. Like, I wonder how many times. I would love to know how many times that opportunities for like relationship, whether it became something permanent or not, but were missed just solely on misinterpretation, misreading the signal.
I'm telling you, I think God has a sense of humor. Like, I'm going to make them innately and physically attracted to each other, but I'm going to totally confuse their language and let them kind of find their way to each other. I really think God has a sense of humor. I'm like, oh my God, like, yeah, this is clear to me, but to the man, it's like, yeah, not clear at all.
Right. And I was having a text conversation with a gentleman earlier, and I was like looking at my text and going, I have no idea what that means. And instead of getting all upset or frustrated because busy day, I'm trying to get all this stuff done before going away on holidays next week, I was just like, I'm just going to ask, what does that mean? And you know what? He answered me, and I'm like, oh, that's what he means. Which I think Tonya, 5 years ago, that would have turned into something much bigger and really stupid, because I probably wouldn't have said anything. I would have carried that all day thinking, what an ass. Like, oh gosh, how insensitive can you be? Blah, blah. I had all that dialogue going in my head, and then, going out for dinner later would have been uncomfortable and awkward, because I certainly would have made it that way. Instead of just like, I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, but isn't it good that we evolve?
Oh, because
we all would have done the same thing, right? Been in our feelings, become insecure, come up with this totally different story of than probably what he was ever thinking.
Right.
Now you can say, hey, like, I didn't quite catch that. What were you trying to say?
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure what this means. And then, I'm like, oh. And then in my head, I'm like, why'd you say it like that then? That's so stupid.
Right. This and ease has been interpreted because now
wow. Like, wow. I was talking to, with some friends at Tampa Club. This is a couple of weeks ago. And we were laughing. It was a bunch of girls and their husbands or boyfriends were there. And I was up there for a meeting, so I joined them over at the bar later. And we were talking, they got into this conversation about how, men and women, like, we're speaking the same language, but totally different dialects. So it's like, it gets all convoluted and all mixed up. And so-and-so's upset for 3 days for no reason over something, just something really silly. And we were talking about, wow, we need like one of those apps that kind of, when you're talking to somebody, a little holographic thing pops up above their head and translates it for you. So you know exactly what they mean.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Girl, go ahead.
All right.
You will be a millionaire. You can retire tomorrow if you go ahead and invent that. We need it.
Incredible, right? Somebody like, as I'm talking, the actual translation in mail is above my head.
There's an app for that. Somebody create the app. Give us the credit though.
That's right. Because somebody looks like it's gonna, get rich off our idea. So speaking of that apps and stuff, how are people, like, back in the day, you and I remember, like, before cell phones and apps and all this stuff, you met people organically. Like, you met people through volunteer groups, through school, through work, through just in your neighborhood. And it's different now. And there's parts of it that I'm like, it just feels so weird. But there's other parts of it that's like, well, now you got kind of these other places that can do the vetting for you, which is if you're super busy and you travel a lot, if you are somebody that's had terrible experiences, like if you come from something that's been abusive, I think those provide a safe platform for you to be like, somebody's going to vet them. And then, so how are people dating now? Like, how is it happening?
Largely, again, I'm not the expert on this, but largely people are using those apps for just that reason. Convenience, right? Opportunities. Quantity over quality, for sure. Not over quality, I would say, but quantity, just we're all busy too. With apps, people really tend to love these apps. I'm talking to younger people, they're using the apps. I'm talking to older people, they're using the apps. Now, for one, I use the app. I appreciate the apps because of the vetting, because of the convenience, but I'm still old fashioned and I just love organic engagement. Where I've met some great people on the apps, I just love bumping into somebody at a networking event or just striking up a conversation, when I'm going to the driving range and just see where it goes from there. I still love it. I love to see interaction. I love to see expression. I love that body language is everything too, right?
When you see
it's what you can, it's what you cannot get while scrolling on somebody's profile, reading their bio, as well as it's written. They're giving us the greatest pictures, so I personally just still love that human interaction. I just love people and what I do at my job, it's just dating, recreation. So I still prefer just to meet people organically.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I know a lot of people that probably like in my circle of friends and acquaintances, I would say those that are single, I would say like 97% of them are using the apps. And a lot of it is like, they're busy, they're on the go. They might not, even if they do happen to after work on the way home, stop and get a cocktail somewhere. It's still rushed. They're rushing. Stop and get a drink. Well, it's been 5 minutes. I haven't met somebody, so I'm going to go home and finish my work. It's like, it's, so I think when you talk about, so I understand the like all the positive, elements of the apps. And I think, and there's some better than others from what I've heard, depending what you're looking at. So I think that's great. And I do think they provide, again, like a safe platform for people that have a little bit of anxiety and fear with getting into the dating pool again because of what they've come from. But on the organic side, what's nice about that is my feeling is when you are kind of in those moments, like if you're at the driving range or maybe you're out I walk the river walk like several times a week, and I'll usually maybe have a seat at Armor Works outside, have a sangria, something in those moments, you're already kind of slowed down. You're in a different mode. You're not in that work brain mode, which we tend to fall into 24/7. Like we do that. But when you stop and do the things that you enjoy, in those moments, you're in a different mindset. Your energy's different. Your body language is different.
Absolutely.
Chances of meeting somebody in that same vibe is it can happen. It doesn't mean it will, but it's not like and you and I, we both go to tons of networking events, so there's always opportunity to meet people, but you're always passing out cards, and then somebody might say, oh, we should get together for lunch. And you think, okay, great, that's a work lunch, I'll pencil it in. But it's that race that
it's a different energy.
It's a different energy.
It's a totally different energy. I have a best friend that's a guy we've been, best friends since 8th grade. And he made a good point because he's watched me in these social settings. He's watched me in business settings. And he was like, Natalie, I know why you can't get married. So matter of factly, I will tell me then, please.
Tell me then.
I need a man. He was like, you're so business at these business things. And I'm like, well, it's a networking thing. He was like, yeah, but men, they want the feminine energy. Right. And like you said, when you're walking Armature Works, and if you're listening to this around the world, this is a great place on our bay, Tampa Bay, where you can just go. It releases something different in you. Yeah. Like you said, you're relaxed. People can see a different side of you, which usually is kind of what people want to see. They want to see that other side. They want to see that relaxed side. They want to see if you have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And so sometimes in those other settings, you can see that. On the other foot, I can see whether a guy has manners. I'm going to see if he's going to hold that door open for me. Right. Or we're in a relaxed setting. I'm going to see if I like the way, his shorts fit or whatever. I can see these different things. Right. Other than when he's in a suit and intentionally has to put his best foot forward, right? Mm-hmm. But ladies, if you're listening, we've been talking about this. Networking can be great for business, but it can also be great for finding the eligible guys. Yeah. But ladies, we must be cognizant and kind of make sure we soften so they'll know that she's not coming up for me for a one-on-one because she has a business proposal. She's approaching me for a reason.
Else on her mind.
Find that this works. I'm like, hey, we can scan the room and say, he might be a great partner for our company. He may be a great asset to our company, or he may be great for me, and sometimes you got to be able to switch that, lady, so that you can just break it down just a peg. So it's not that we can't find guys in this setting. Sometimes we just need to remember what energy we need to bring toward that first introduction.
Right. So I want to talk about that a little bit because I think you hit the nail on the head, but I think that's a little bit of a challenge for a lot of us women because
it's you're
there at an event to network. Like I know when I don't want to talk about me, but I'm going to give an example. So I land in Tampa and I have really very little connections. I'm starting from scratch, my own thing. And so networking events were huge. I mean, I had to go in there and work the room the best I could, talk about who I was, what I did, why would you want to hire me? And so I was so business focused because I needed to eat. I needed to pay the rent. I had kids in college. It was about, I need income enough to sustain myself so I'm not homeless. Right? So
doing great. She's doing it.
Thank you. So when when you're a woman and you go to these events and you're wanting to be like, I'm smart. You do want me on your team. I have something to contribute. You want me on your team because I'm going to be a great asset. And we really want to convey that. So how do where's that gray area where you can be sort of that, that going in all hard and strong and confident and yet being like, well, I'm also this woman and I love champagne. I love to go walk the river, or I love golfing, and you golf. Well, how do you navigate that? Well, so it doesn't feel so awkward.
So it's a recent discovery, y'all. So again, y'all run that disclaimer on the bottom. Recent discovery here with Natalie. But again, that's the beauty of this time in life. We're figuring things out as we go and making it an adventure, y'all. Make it just so that we can pivot and shift at any time. I think observation of a room and assessment is very key.
Okay.
Women have to trust what we've been given. Yeah. We have great sixth sense. I don't care. Nobody's ever going to argue with me about it.
Right.
I know.
I agree with you.
We have a great sixth sense. So you can scan a room and in a matter of moments, you can know who you can land a deal with. You can know who you're attracted to. You can know who you can go play a great round of golf with. You can, it's something about it. You realize. And that way you'll know how to approach that person. Could you be wrong, y'all? Of course. Y'all take the shot. It's 2023. If you're wrong, he may be a great business partner down the road.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or you may have a really cute brother.
Or he may have a cute brother. You never know where this thing may end, ladies. Just run it all the way to the end. But I've tried it. Now, I also have some other networking tactics too, but women, lady, sisters, girlfriends, trust your sixth sense. Trust it. Not only should you trust it, act upon it, because we know what we know. But how often do we act upon it? Not often, because we're already in a corporate setting. We're already having to prove ourselves. We're already having to strap on this armor to protect ourselves, but also show that why we are the ones for the team, why we're the ones going to close this deal and take the sales to the next level in this company and grow your team exponentially over this many years. And we're already programmed that we've got to go in there and prove ourselves. But how many times do we go into a room and we make people laugh? How many times do we go into a room and we really show empathy to that CEO because he did have a deal that he did not get and it crushed him so, and nobody asked him how he was feeling?
Yeah.
Those kind of things, ladies, get men's attention. Right in the middle of a star-studded cast of people in a room. Those kind of things gets people attention. And they notice you. And they notice how we're genuinely concerned about them. It works.
Ladies, you need to listen to that, because I think that might be one of the things we've been miscommunicating to ourselves, is that becomes a sign of weakness. But it actually, and I was at an event a year ago or so, and I was talking with one of the keynotes on the panel. I managed to get a sort of face-to-face with him, and we were having a dialogue. And he said, never underestimate the power of your femininity, because it outweighs all. He goes, you could get 100 men in a boardroom. And he goes, we're going at it like a bunch of dogs, all kind of marking our territory and stuff. And he goes, but a woman walks into a room, and don't ever discount that feminine energy or that softness you have can trump all of that. He goes, there's tremendous power. And we've been telling ourselves that I don't know that, I've never told myself that it was a weakness. I've told myself that it's perceived by others. Again, so I'm like, who am I to say what other people think? Like, that is just so arrogant. And
we assume that we must suppress it. So being in my industry, y'all, there are very few women in the financial advising industry, right? And so there was a poll taken recently in the last few years to say people love their financial advisor. They love their male financial advisor because he takes control of that portfolio. He grows it, all the kind of things that they do. But there was one thing that made them realize why women are so important, or a trait that men should work on. They lacked empathy.
And that's from the speech, the male saying that they want that from women. Like, they want to be asked how they are. So
exactly.
Right? Isn't that kind of an interesting little twist?
And it's exactly. So women, we need to stand up and we need to be ourselves. Even in dating, we need to be ourselves. In the boardroom, be yourself. Because guess what? That's where you're going to excel. Yeah. That's where people are going to be attracted to. Right. And I'm learning that. And it's taken me all my life, Tonya. It's taken me all my life to figure that out. But now that I've got it, I'm really trying to use it and work on it. And,
that's amazing.
And flourish. Yeah.
Wow. Natalie, this has been one of my most fun podcasts.
Oh,
it's really, I know. I'm sure that people listening, I'm sure they're loving it. And if you're a woman listening to it, you listen to it, and men, listen to it. And if you're married and listening to it, listen to it together.
Yes.
Listen to this together. Listen to this with your husbands or your boyfriends or Listen to it with your buddy. Like this is a really great education and just like human connection that is really, we've made it so much more complicated than it needs to be, mostly because of perception, the things that we tell ourselves that other people's think, and we don't know what other people are thinking, and a lot of times they're not even really thinking that hard about us. But it's just, I think this has been absolutely wonderful. So Natalie, let's start with your podcast. Now, for those of you listening, we're going to include all of this in the show notes as well. So you can always look in the show notes because we're going to provide the links. But Natalie, because if you're sitting at a desk and you can't wait, where can they find you? So for the podcast, where's the podcast?
Successful but Single Podcast. If you put it in, it will pop up on all major platforms. Okay, y'all. So just Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. It's out there. So please, yeah.
Okay. And where else because you are incredibly successful. You are incredibly intelligent and amazing to talk with. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so much you've accomplished. There's so much more you're going to do. I mean, you're an amazing member of the community. You're constantly giving back. You're constantly thinking of others. And I am very honored to call you my friend. So thank you.
The same.
So
and thank you for your kind words.
Oh, you're very welcome. So where else can we find you?
Well, I am an investment advisor at Edward Jones. You can find me there at edwardjones.com/Natalie-Freeman. I am on social media platforms. Facebook is Natalie Nicole. Instagram under Nat Freedom, ENT. That's my Instagram. And usually those places is where I hang out. So you will definitely find
and this is a woman, let me tell you right now, this is a woman who goes to bat for her clients like no one else I've met. So if you're looking for someone who is going to be on your team and have your back all the way and then some, you want to call Nat. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And you know why? Because my clients are my friends. My clients are people I care about. Even on my pens, y'all, it says investing in you, not your money. And I mean that. I mean that sincerely because people have entrusted me, I think, because we've developed a relationship. And, I think they think I'm a pretty cool person because I think they're pretty cool people. And that's why we work so well together.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Natalie, this is great. I'm going to have you back in a couple months because we're just this.
Yay!
I know that your podcast is going to be growing and you're our researcher. So we need to have you back to find out what else you've learned so you can share it with us all.
Oh, absolutely. Now with those disclaimers, run against the bottom, though, production team.
That's right.
Put those there. But I'm out there looking and I would be happy to share anything I found.
Oh,
thank you again for having me. This has been so much fun.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for listening to us. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review. And again, please share this podcast with someone. Listen to it with your partner, your significant other, or even with your girlfriends one night, because this is really, really great information. This has been an education in being successful, but single, and maybe not so single. So thank you again. I'm your coach, Tonya Fines. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we will talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.